Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel for the Atari 8-bit home computer system. If you're looking to learn about programming, you've come to the right place. Now, you will find videos on my channel from simple basic programming to intermediate to advanced. Now, I've decided to label them and categorize them that way so people can get an easier reference of where they want to go to. And what this video session here is going to be is actually for basic programming, and it may even go into intermediate, but not beyond that. It won't cover anything to do with assembly language, but I'm going to try to set up some concepts here to get people started and show them how to make simple programs, and then we'll kind of work it up from there. I eventually want to show you how to design your own drawing program so you can use the arrow keys or something like that to draw pictures on the screen. I think that would probably keep it pretty basic for now, so let's get this started. It'll take me a minute to zoom this in correctly. Bear with me one moment here, guys. I have one of these cameras that you basically have to move it around so it kind of decides what it wants to do. Okay, so to start off here, this is I've set this program up right now. This is called a remark statement. Whenever you see an REM in your programs, it's just basically what it says here. It allows you to type in your comments. It won't do anything. It's just a way to be basically to explain or put detail of what your program lines may be doing as you go through them. Alright, so we'll start off with something really simple. Most people might or may not know this. To get something to print to the screen, you would just type in print, and then you would use an open quote, which is basically shift 2. It may vary on other computer systems. And we'll just type in, this is my first computer program in BASIC. Okay? And if you want to skip a line, you would just put a print statement without anything in it. And let's go ahead and just run this for right now, and I'll show you what it does. So basically, all it's done here is just printed the message that you put into this area right here. So everything between this quote and this quote will be output to the screen. Now also, I'll go down and I'll create another line here. Oops. Give me a second. Okay, so let's clear this up here. I want to show you. I'll run this. And this time, and notice what it's done is it printed the message in here and also printed the number 5. So you can include numbers inside of these quotes too. The only thing you can't do inside of here is calculations, but we'll go into that in just a minute. Okay, there's my remark statement. Remember, all it's going to do is explain the next line below. And I put this in to explain the next step. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to teach you something called variables. Variables can hold anything, any kind of numbers you want, but they cannot hold text. Basically, they cannot hold characters in your computer. They are used for calculations. So I'm going to show you what a variable looks like. Now, a variable can have any name. On the Atari computer, I believe they can go up to 128 characters, but I may be wrong on that. You usually don't want to make them much longer. Just they consume memory for one thing. And also, if you make them really long, it's harder for people to type them in. So just usually make them very simple. Since this is calculations, I'm just going to use simple stuff like X, Y, Z, A, B, C for now. So we'll start our first, or we could use like number too. Since this is a calculation, I'm going to call this one num for number. So you just type in the word num. Now what you want to do is you want to set this equal to a value. Actually, you know what? I'll say this will be number 1. And we'll set this equal to a value like 5. We'll go down here to another line. We're going to create another variable. This one's going to be number 2. And we're going to create that 8. Okay? So what I basically just did here is I took a variable and I called it num1. You could set number of characters inside of your variables too. They don't just have to be characters, but they can't start with a number. They have to end with a number. So you would just, I put in num1 equals 5. So this variable now contains the value of 5. So if you print num1 on the screen, you're going to get a 5. The next line down here is just basically called num2 equals 8. So if you print num2 on the screen, it's going to equal 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, subtract, well, we could subtract them, but we'll get a negative value. We could subtract, add, subtract, multiply, and divide these numbers. And I'll show you how that works. I'll just set up another line. We'll just call this one addition. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use the print statement. You're going to put your number variable in there. And you're going to learn something else called symbols. Now, actually, before I do that, let me just do this. I don't want to lose people here. So if you're very new to BASIC, we want to keep this very simplistic. So symbols that you can use for multiplication on your computer are plus, plus, you would use the asterisk. The asterisk is your multiply. Then you would use minus, of course, and the slash sign, that's for division. So let's put that down here. And basically that's just what you just saw over here. Okay. Now we can just set a separate remark. It does nothing. It just skips a line down to kind of make our code look a little cleaner here. So we're going to add those numbers. First we're going to add them together. What you do is you take the number 1, the variable you created, you put a plus sign in the middle of it. You just type number 2, and now you've got your first calculation. So let's go ahead and run it. So what it does is it follows line by line through the program here, so it's printing the first message we had on the screen. Then after that, it's printing the second one we had on the screen. And notice it says 13. And here's how we arrived at that. Let's list the program again. All you have to do is type print num1, comma, num2, and you'll see the values that we had set up inside of these. So num1 is equal to 5, as I indicated earlier. Num2 is equal to 8. Now here's how the calculations arrive. If you look at this line right here, you could type it down here and you'll get the answer that we had on the screen earlier. Which is 13. So there's your first calculation. Now you can also use print. It does this, question mark in Atari Basic, it does the same thing. It's just a faster way of people like say typing. Okay, so the next line here. Oops, I almost got my remark statement. This one's going to be multiply. You can almost guess what we're going to do. We're going to copy this same thing here, but we're going to be using the second symbol. And the same thing for subtract, you just place it with the minus, and the divide, you place it with the slash mark here, which is for division. We'll go ahead and run it again. Okay, so you see the numbers printed on the screen. I'm going to put messages beside these so you can tell what is what. Because this one is our add, and this one is our multiply. So I'm just going to throw another thing here. So right before these numbers up here, or let's see, I'm sorry, right down here, I'm going to stick a line in here, and we're just going to say adding in BASIC. We'll set the slash sign so we keep it on the same line. You could put a space in here to make it look a little more cleaner. Now watch when we run this what this does. See, what it did is it took the number that you had earlier down here, 13, and it just stuck that message right in front of it. That's what the semicolon does at the end here. You've seen it down here on 135 where I put the semicolon at the end. That basically keeps all the text on the same line. It's kind of how you keep everything nice and tidy. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the next line. And we'll go ahead and run that one too. Right, so we still follow the same sequence of instructions. You got down here and it says adding in basic, and it shows you the number 13, multiplying in basic, and 5. Now we could also print out the numbers that's calculating these, but that may go a little bit too advanced in this section, so I may stay away from that. I want to keep it busy, but you can actually sit there and set up a variable and make it output that value as a result. We could probably do that later, but let's just cover the basics for now. Alright, so we're on to our next statement, which is going to say, oh, we forgot the remark statement. That's subtracting and basic. And we're going to set up our calculation for our subtracting. This is going to produce a negative number because we have the other value in front of it. So that's okay. Computer can accept negative numbers. So if you look here when I ran it, and see if you can figure out the mistake I did. Well, actually, I forgot to put the text in front of it, is what I forgot to do. So basically it shows a negative value. So if you take, remember the values in the equations, which is 5 minus 8, you're going to get negative 3 because you can't subtract 5 from 8. And it's already going to go beyond, it's going to go under 0. So it just starts going backward. Okay, so I'm going to put my message in here. Now when I run it, you'll see the message is now in front of it, and we got our result there still. We'll do the same thing for division. Division's also going to produce a funny looking number. That's okay. Yep. So let's put my message in first. And then our calculation. Oops. Let's go ahead and run it again. Now you see it's following the sequence of the instructions. It's showing the same numbers. It's showing the adding. It's showing the multiplying. It's showing the subtracting. And finally the line we just put in, dividing in basic, and it shows the result. So if you take the number 5 divided by 8, that's going to be the result. Notice that it does give decimal points when you use calculation, so it's pretty precise. So if you take 5 divided by 8, that's how we arrived at that. But remember, these are just set up as variables. So 5 is num1 and 8 is num2. I think that's probably it for the variables. Oh, what else I was going to say? I was going to show you the how we can output these into a result calculation, and we can print the 5 and the 8 on the screen so you can see that it looks like a calculator. I'll show you how this is done. This may go a little bit far-fetched, so excuse me. I'm going to create a new variable. I'm just going to call it result, and we're going to take it equal to the num1. And since we're going to do them one by one here, actually, you know what? I do this up here, so we need to do this beforehand. We'll do result. I don't know why I'm sticking it there. It'll go right underneath here. So 85 result equals num1. Actually, you know what we'll do? We'll set up equations of results. So this will be result 1. Num1 equals result 1 equals num1 plus num2 result 2 equals num1 times num2. Result 3 equals num1 minus num2. Finally, result 4 equals num1 divided by num2. So what I just basically did here is I took these numbers here, you see 5 and 8, and we're sticking them into an actual variable that can calculate these together. So it's very similar to what you saw earlier, except now we're going to have a variable that holds the calculation instead of just one single value. It's going to calculate these two variables together. So this is 5 plus 8, because num2 is equal to 8. Num1 here is 5 again, and this is times num2, which is 8. So this is result 2. And this is num1, which is 5 again, minus num2, which is 8. And that gives us the subtraction. And then we have finally result 4 equals num1 divided by num2. So it's basically 5 divided by 8. I said num2, but I'm sorry, 8. So it's 5 divided by 8. And I'm going to take these results here and we're going to output them to the screen so it looks kind of like a calculator. Let me get down there. Let's see here. We want to put them right close to the lines here because here is where we did the calculation, so we'll have it. Let's see here. Multiplying in basic. Probably stick it in here. Hopefully it won't look too bad. And we're going to say result 1. And then that should do it for that one. We're going to also need to put a space in this. I can show you what happens when I run this. You can kind of learn from it. Let's see what happened here. Now this is a strange looking number. So what it's doing is it's taking the 5 and the 8. I think I might stick this on the wrong line. Let me double check this again. Let's see, multiplying in basic. 5 times 8 is 40. It stuck the 13 in front of this. Oh, I know what's going on here. I wanted to show you this anyway. What it's doing is it's calculating the same thing that we did here earlier with num1 times num2. It's just taking result 1, and if I did this correctly up here, it's adding both of these together. So 8 plus 5 is 13. So when I run the program again, that's what it did. Is we added them on this line, but I should have multiplied this one. We wanted to stick this line above this one, so I'm going to move it above this one so it makes a little bit more sense. I stuck it in the wrong place, excuse me. I should have stuck it up here. Let's see, num2. Yeah, I should have went right up there, and I think I stuck it down here. Yep. So let's erase 166. And we'll stick it right after this line. So probably 136 should do it. That should give us the right result. I'm also going to insert a space down here, so it leaves us some room. Now let's see how it looks. Okay, so it says adding in basic. Oh, you know what it did is it added both these lines together, because when you put a semicolon side by side, it's going to merge them together. So I need to actually separate that here. Excuse me a second. Okay. Multiplying basic. I think I should do this a separate print line if I would have fixed it. We are multiplying in basic. I put multiplying. This is adding. Well, I got two lines there. I think I just erased my other line. Well, let me take that one out. Let's see here. Adding in basic. We got the two numbers. And we'll set it at 136, print result 1. Should be correct. Let's see. Okay, so adding in basic, now it's done the same thing. It's done what I've been trying to do here. So what it did, I'll go back to those lines and show you, and I'll run the program again so we don't lose you here. We'll just keep these lines on the screen to show you, and I'll run it. Okay. So earlier where you saw me print the result 1 here, that was taking num1, and it just went off the screen there, but it takes num1 plus num2, and it's sticking it inside of here. It's just sticking it inside of one calculated variable, so now this variable is holding a calculation. So that's why you're seeing this number the same as this one, because it's doing the same thing this is doing, except these are numbering, these are calculating 2 variables side by side, while this is just holding the result of 2 calculated variables. So it's kind of just a faster way of doing it. I wanted to show you that, so when we get into the other stuff, it's not too far-fetched here. So, okay, so let's do the same thing for the other lines. Subtracting in basic. And we'll set this one, let's say, where I put the other one, adding in basic, I put it right after it, so I'll put it right here. This is result 2. Now if we run that one, oops, what did I do wrong here? Let's see. Oh, I know, I forgot to change the calculation on it. Result 2 was multiply. I went down here to this one, so this one should be up above. Sorry about that, guys. So 196 should have went right with our multiplication, so right here. This is result 2, which is our multiply. And we'll stick a space in there again. So that should work. Let me erase these lines and run it so I can show you. Keep it on the screen, hopefully. So now it's taking the result 2, which is holding our multiplication, which is the num1 times the num2. If you look down here, you'll see it's done as pretty close to what this has done. This has done it by adding them, showing them side by side. Remember, this is result 1, and this is num1 plus num2, while this one is result 2, which is the calculated value, and this one is num1 times num2. So this is how you're getting them, still doing the same thing, but you're just holding the results of a calculation inside of a calculated variable. We'll do the same thing for the subtracting and the dividing. Hopefully this is catching on for you. I'll do the subtracting. That's result 3. And this line I'm doing right here below it is just inserting a space after the answer, and I'll run this and show you what that means. So next thing we've done is we're going to do worse of subtracting in basic, which is down here, and we're going to print result 3, which, remember, the result 3 earlier up in the program is holding num1 minus num2, or 5 minus 8, which gives us the same variable here of -3, and this one is the num1 minus num2, which does the same thing, but it's just 2 single variables calculating it together. And the space that you saw here earlier is just inserted inside these areas here, so it looks a little more plainer. And you use that semicolon so it stays on the same line. We'll finish up the last one here. Right here. Put the space in. Let's run it. Okay, so now it's doing the same thing again. But this time we're going to the division one. So result 4, which you remember earlier up in the program, result 4 was holding num1 divided by num2. You see it right here, but it's basically saying result equals num1 divided by num2. And then this is also doing the same thing here, but this is 2 single variables. Where you see it here, it says print num1 divided by num2. So it's basically doing that to get the calculation for the division. So that's kind of a simple start on programming in general. So that's a very basic programming there. There's other things I could show you. I wanted to kind of step it up here and let me see here. What we could probably do. I've showed this one in another video, but I'm going to put it in this one anyway. For people who may not have followed that video. We're going to use a new command here. It's called input. And names is the name of the variable. So, you look back here in the program earlier, at the top. You saw here where I put in dim names 20. This is called dimension, and this is dimensioning or setting up a space area for a variable. It's a special variable. It's called a character variable, or also known as a string. So this is a name string, and you set it to the limit. If you count these characters, it's going to be set to 20 characters, so it would have 20 alphabet characters in a name. So usually set it to maybe 20 or 30 depending on how long people's names are. So I put input names down here. You look down here in the program where it says input names, and I run it and I'll watch what happens. Okay, so what it's doing is it's showing, instead of showing the ready mark and jumping out of the program, it's showing a question mark. So what that means is it's waiting for a response from the computer here. So you can just type in anything, it doesn't matter. And it will end because there's nothing else going on after that instruction. It just jumps right down here out of the program and it ends. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it print out whatever is being held in a name. So whatever you type in this area is going to be put inside of here. I'll show you. We'll set up a new line. Let me just clear the screen for clarity. I'm going to say hi, and put another line here to make it simplistic for people. Then we're going to print names. Now watch what happens when I run it. Once again, we're getting the question mark, so we're going to now type in our name. And it just basically took my name and it outputted it to the screen. Because earlier up here in the program, I wrote the word hi, so basically it's printing out whatever I put inside of these quotes. And the semicolon is going to keep it all in the same line. And it's going to take whatever you typed into that question mark area and print it in this variable, the new, what's called the string. So it's going to output that to the screen. So it would just print in whatever you want to type in here, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to just be Steve, it could be anything. Hi world. And it would just, still, it would copy whatever's in here, output to the screen. So that's just called a string variable. Okay, let's see what else I could cover here. Try not to go too advanced because I know people are going to get mad at me if I go too far here. These are, a lot of these examples can be found in this book right here. And this one is actually known as the, well, you get a focus on it here. It's the Atari Owner's Manual, and this one's for the XE system, but you can also have them for the 65 XE, and it basically has programs in here that teaches you stuff, what I was just showing you here. If you look at this one right here at the bottom. Give me a minute to grab it. Right there. You see dimension dates. This one just saying, let me hold it still here. When would you like to come and pick up your prize? And it would just print out whatever that variable was for dates. So it's a good book to teach you. It's a real good start to basic programming for people who want to start off simple. Went over some of the same things I've showed you already. Let me kind of walk through the book here and see if I can take it a step up. We can learn about something called conditions, which they practice in this book here. So let me kind of go on into that section. So we're going to set up a new area here. Oh, and I almost forgot to remark this one, sorry. String variables. Next one's about conditions. Now what a condition does, it takes two and it compares two different areas of a line. So I'll show you here in a minute. You can take and you can compare numbers, you can compare strings, and whatever you're going to set in these conditions will check to see if a result is a match. If it's a match, it will do whatever's after the then statement. If it's not a match, it will just jump out and skip that line. So in this example, we already have num1 plus num2. So we could say something like this. We'll just make a message. Does 5 times 8 equal, and we'll make it incorrect here, 45. And then the next line, remember your print, all that's doing is just printing out the message to the screen. It's just taking everything in between the quotes. It's not doing anything really hard here. And then now we're going to teach you about conditions. It's going to say if, you would start it with the if statement. Num1, remember num1 is 5, is greater or less, this means greater or less, it means not equal to, num2, and it's going to print a message here and say, no it does not. Let's see. No, it does not. So watch what happens when I run the program. So it's still going through the same sequence of steps. It's going to be asking for my name. And now it's going to check to see if the number variable of 5, remember num1 is 5, is greater or less. These little slash lines, when you put them side by side, it's also known as not equal. So it's basically saying if 5 is not 8, then we're going to print this message. So watch what happens. I'll put in anything in here. And what it's doing is it's saying, does 5 times 8 equal 45? No, it does not. Now this is just a computer's way of taking your message based on the conditions you did and just outputting a message. Now we're going to make it check to see if it equals the right answer. I'll show you how that's done. Let's close the program again. Another if condition. Num1 equals num2, and print that is correct. So now what we're doing, we want to get an actual calculation, so excuse me on this, I should have used result. So result, which is going to be equal to our num1 plus num2. That would be correct, because this is basically taking the value of the result, which is 40, and saying is that equal to num1 plus num2, which is exactly what this is asking right here. So it should work correctly now. Let's run it again. Put in my name. Let's see, I think what it did is let me check something here. Oh, you know, I forgot to, I know what I did, I just not see it. If you look here in the program, I set up a variable called result equals num1 plus num2. But remember earlier, we only had result 1, result 2, and result 3. And I'll show you why that this did not print the right and correct result. If you just print the variable name result to the screen, you'll see that it equals 0, which means it doesn't hold anything in it yet. So what we want to do is change that to result 1. Now what's going to happen is it's going to actually do both of these messages, and I'll show you why right here on the screen. If you see this one says num1 is greater or less than num2, and print no it does not. Now here's how that is. It says print num1 comma num2, and when you look at these values, you see that num1 is 5 as we indicated earlier, num2 is 8. So since these are not equal to each other, it's still going to be able to print this message on the screen. So to make this a little bit more simple, I'm just going to turn off this line for a minute so we can make it give a correct result here. Just put a remark statement in front of it, and now when it gets to the remark statement, it's going to skip that and it's just going to go to the next result, or the next line. So now it's going to check to see if we can get this one to print. That should work. Does 5 times 8 equal 45? That is correct. Now logically that doesn't make sense because 5 times 8 is not 45, it's 40. But the computer's just printing out the message that you put for the condition. So we can change this message to make it look exactly the way it should, make it make sense. Let's go down here and just change the message. 5 times 8 equal, we'll just change this to 40. Now when we run it, it'll make more sense. Those 5 times 8 equal 40, that is correct. So now it's just putting in the same results of what you put into the, up here. You see where it says, does 5 times 8 equal 40? And then right here it says result 1, which remember is the calculated variables of num1 plus num2, or I'm sorry, num1, what was that, num1 plus num2, and this one is just taking the two variables of num1 plus 2 side by side, so it's going to be able to print that is correct now. Now another thing I want to show you is something called greater or less than. So we're going to be checking these value ranges and see is 5 greater than this value, is this greater than this value, and make it do some different things here. Okay, so this one, let's number it. It's going to be called, we'll just say condition comparison or something like that. I think that should do it. And now we're going to have another message here on our screen. Is 5 greater than 8? This is asking a question again. And then we're going to use our condition down here in our if statement. If, we're going to use single variables this time. Since num1 is 5, we're going to say is num1 greater than num2? So this is what it's saying right now, and this line is saying is 5 greater than num2. So the computer's going to be able to compare single values now instead of comparing conditions and the whole calculated variable. It's now able to compare individual values in those variables. So if you had to think about it logically, is 5 greater than 8? No, it's not. So let's make it say then no, it is not. Now let's run it again. Let's put the name again. And let's see here. So we had a failure here. Let's see what happened here. Num1 is greater than num2. Let's say num1, num2 is 5 greater than 8. Oh, I know what happened here. What it did is it just took the variables of 5 and set them greater than 8, and it's putting out a 0 because it's not getting a correct calculation on that. Because the computer would normally, this would be correct, but it's not able to distinguish what we're trying to ask it. So let's do something different here. Excuse me on that one. So we want to make it equal to, because if it's equal to 0, like it was earlier, if I just say, like I just showed you, num1 greater than num2, and the result comes out to be 0, it's not going to execute this line. So we need to make this come out to a 1, this conditional 1, which is called Boolean logic, so that you can go ahead and print a result. So I think we'll just turn it around maybe. Let's say 8 greater than num1. That should work. So we'll just turn these numbers around. Is 8 greater than 5? Let's see if that works. Okay. This time it works. So it put the message on the screen. Is 8 greater than 5? And it says, well, it's saying no, it is not, because we left the message in there, but we want to change that to make it say yes, it is. Remember, it's just printing in whatever you put inside of those quotes, so it isn't. The quotes inside here can't do any logic. They just put whatever you put into them. So let's see here. think that should do it. I'm going to keep this on a single line. Let's try it again. So is 8 greater than 5? Yes, it is. It's just putting in the result of what you put in it. Now we're going to do less than for the condition. I'll show you that. And up here I'll just make this a condition greater than for the comparison. Makes more sense. So we're going to set a message again. Is 5 less than 8? And that would have worked earlier with our earlier equation. Now we're going to set the condition. Is num1, which is 5, less than num2, which is 8. And if it is, we're going to make it print a message. That is right. So let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, so once again, it's just following the sequence of our instructions up here. It's just printing out is 5 less than 8. And then it's going to check these variables. Remember, num1 is 5. This means less than, so it's basically saying, is the number 5 less than the number 8? Computer knows that that answer is yes, so it'll put this and turn this into a 1 to make this true. And then it'll just print the message that you put on the screen. That is right. That's what it did down here. So, in case you missed that again here, this right here is greater than, this is less than. So this is just basically checking one side that's greater, and this one is just checking less. So if the value is less, it's going to produce a lesser value. So let me see how else I could step this thing up. Hopefully it doesn't get in too fast for you, but if it is, you can rewind the video and go back and look at it. There's one other thing I did want to show you with the conditions too. We'll say, what year, well, let me set this on another line here. This one's going to be called condition less than or equal to. And then a message. We'll ask a question. What year did Neil Armstrong walk on the moon? We're going to use our condition now. If, oh, you know what? I need to set up a new variable. I'm gonna do a different approach here. Instead of using these num1s and results that we've been doing already, I'm gonna show you how to use the less than and equal to set a condition. So we're gonna answer this question: what year did Neil Armstrong walk on the moon? So I'm gonna create a new variable now, and we'll just call this one, I don't know what we could call it. Year equals 19. We'll set the correct answer in here, 69. And then we'll use our condition now. If year is equal to 1969, in print, it was in 1969. Now we're going to run the program again. And it's just going to follow through the same code again here. And it's going to ask it, it's going to print out the question we just put on the screen. What year did Neil Armstrong walk on the moon? And this is going to answer the question. It was in 1969. I know I just set that equal to, I wanted to show you less than or equal, so let me go back here, excuse me. If the year was less than or equal to 1969, so this is just checking a range to see if it was in 1969. If it was less than or equal to 1969, then it's going to set this condition as correct, but that wouldn't be correct to set it less than or equal, so that might not be a good example to use. I wanted to show you how to check less than and different values, so what we could probably do is something like, we'll set up 2 different years maybe. Call this year 1, year 2 equals, I don't know, 1940. If the year is less than or equal to, let's see, less than or equal to, we'll say, we'll just do this instead. We'll just say, if year is greater, well, this isn't going to work for what I wanted. I wanted to be able to show you the less than or equal to, but to make it still make sense, because it's, you can't say he walked on the moon in 1940, 1941, which is less than 69, and that wouldn't make any sense. So maybe I'll just have to try something different here with these. I haven't really prepared this one. There's an example in this book. I didn't want to try to start using somebody's example, but they were showing, let's see here. Actually, their example doesn't work either, looks like. They're using a less than a greater. But you see what I just did there is if you set anything equal to, it's going to be equal to that value. So you can also just type in numbers here directly, and it'll still do those correct results. But that's not what I wanted to do. So let me think about this for a minute. Sorry about this. I know this one's gotten pretty long, but might have to go back to the numbers or something. If num1, which is 5, is less than or equal to, I have it. I know what I'm going to do. We're going to change all this up here. We're going to stay with the same stuff we did earlier. So if num1 is less than or equal to, we'll say 5. Boy, let's see, less than or equal to 5. So if we take 5 and 8, anything less than or equal to 5 would still be anything from 0 to 5. So if num1 is less than or equal to 5, then we could just say, I think I'm going to ask another question. That's probably what we need to do here. What are the missing numbers up to 5? I think this will probably work. If num1, which is 5, is less than or equal to 5, then we're just going to make it print those numbers to the screen and print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wanted to try something just to show you how it works. Okay, so now we're asking a new question. What are the missing numbers up to 5? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here's how this one works. You can kind of keep that one in your head here for a minute. Okay, so what it's doing is it's printing out the message, or a new message here. And you could skip this stuff down here. And it's saying, is num1 less than or equal to 5? So in other words, it's saying, is num1 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or is it a 5? And if it is, it's going to be able to print our answer here to the screen. Now num1 can also be negative too, so if num1 is negative 8 or negative 20,000 or whatever, it's still going to be able to get this correct result. Now we're going to use the other variable 8 and find out what numbers can actually be greater than 8. And we're going to use another condition here. We'll set up another line for that one, and it's called condition greater than or equal to. And we'll set up a message. Is, let's see, is number 5, what number can be greater than 8? Now it's asking a question here. It's going to use our condition. If num2, so we need to do our comparison again. If num2 is greater or equal to 8, it's going to say our answer, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, up to infinity. So let's run the program again. Put in our name. Now it's just going into the next question we have, which is going to put the next question we have, which says what numbers can be greater than 8. And it's going to show you 8. Well, I actually put it greater than or equal to 8 is what I should have done. But let me change that real quick, so that makes sense. Numbers are greater than or equal to 8. That'll make more sense. So what numbers are greater than or equal to 8? Since 8 is still 8, it's going to print 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, up to infinity. I just put, so we've been just printing a bunch of numbers on the screen forever. So basically it's checking anything over that value range. So that kind of covers the conditions for now. I think that would keep it kind of basic there. Maybe next time I'll go into something called for loops and kind of explain those. I think that'll be kind of a step up from here. Let's see if there's anything else I could do here. I'm just still using this book again to see if I can find anything else that might be of a beginner but not too advanced, because I feel like this one may have went a little far-fetched. But we'll see how it goes. Based on the responses I'll get on comments, I'll know whether this one went too far or not. So I just wanted to leave, I'm going to leave this one as it is, I guess, for now. Even though this one may have not covered and satisfied a lot of people who are maybe looking for a little bit more, I wanted to kind of set up a simple tutorial for people who are just starting with basic programming, just to let you know I'm not going to leave you behind in everything. This video should get you a start in understanding the remark statements and understanding how to print stuff to the screen and understanding how variables work and how to calculate those variables, and also how to use conditions to check those values within those variables. So hopefully this would have given you some kind of a start. And like I said, this kind of program here can be used on pretty much any computer. All the conditions here, they should work with any other program from Commodore to Tandy, Atari, or whichever basic language you're using. So I thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed this session for those who were just looking for a beginning to programming, because I'm getting a lot of questions where people seem to be getting lost on stuff, and I just thought I would throw this one out there. The next one I'll try to cover maybe something called for loops and kind of explain them. I wanted to go into that and show you how to set up like a basic drawing program. So that one might be more of an intermediate, but we'll take it from there. So thank you for watching.